All right, so here is an example of a circuit. Now what do we need to do? The students have lined up on the green dots. What do we need to do? We need to go back to the outline of the conversation. We need to label the space. All right, there's 8 of you. Here's our circuit. We need to make sure that as we're moving through this space, we're not going to be running into each other. But let's first label the space. So we have some panel mats. Does everyone see these blue panel mats? Yes, they do. Good. Do you see these beams? Excellent. Do you see the purple mat? Yes. We have a red wedge. We have a blue block, and a blue block. We labeled the space. Now in doing so, we also kind of touched on the flow because we labeled it in the order at which they'll be moving through the circuit. And so we kind of already touched on the flow. But we can have a feedback loop going by saying, okay, we labeled the space. So if I go to the blue mats, where do I go next? Now you have a reason to draw the students into the conversation. Well, you go to the beams. Cool, but what do I do after I go on the beams? Well, you go to the purple mat. And we're creating, again, the element of surprise. They still don't know what we're doing on the surfaces. We're just merely labeling it and talking about where you go, direction, flow. Then we have, what am I doing on it? In a circuit scenario with lower level students, I prefer that all the students just run across the surfaces so that they can show you that they understand how the flow works and that they understand how the pacing needs to happen. And so once you see that and everyone can stay safe, you can freeze the group and then come back to the next layer being like, okay, here's what we're going to do now on this block, or here's how we're going to move over the beams, and you can make it more specific. But for the start, it's just we're going to run over the surface. What type of effort are we looking for? Well, maybe we're going to run over the surfaces for time. Like we're just going to do the circuit for 30 seconds. Or maybe we're going to do 3 rounds as a group through the circuit before we change it up. And so now they know what the effort is. What happens when we finish the effort? How are we measuring that? What's our success, essentially, our reward? Well, you're going to get 10 points or you're going to get something. So we're now measuring the success by achieving something. Okay? So you get a letter grade as a group. Everyone gets a high five, whatever it might be. And then the pacing is the key component to all circuits. You need to be at the beginning, letting know each student when they can go. So you're looking at them and you're saying, ready, freeze, wait on my command, okay, go ahead and go. Next person, ready, freeze, wait on my command, okay, go ahead and go. And you're pacing them out so that they're spaced out appropriately in a way that no one's going to collide into each other. Also then, if a student is really, really fast, you can have them wait a little bit longer so the person in front of them can get further along in the circuit before they get to go. Or if somebody's a lot slower, you can also give them more space so that the person behind them is not just going to catch up to them right away. The other thing is you're teaching the students to rely on your command, which means then when there's a problem in the circuit, you can ask them, the next student to freeze and wait for you, and you can go address the situation without a concern that they're just going to start running through the course and create a traffic jam someplace else where everyone's just piling on to a block or something like that. So this is the idea of how you're going to operate a circuit. Might look different based off of the levels. As students become more mature and they understand the format and the flow and the pacing, then they can become more self-accountable to understand they need to wait till somebody's off the surface before they go. And so as they age and mature, usually they can control the flow. But early on, it's very important for you as an instructor, especially if you're new to teaching, that you're controlling the flow and you're making that a habit.